I am in a sea of Corvettes here at the National Corvette Museum. As you can see, there are a whole lot of Corvettes here all over the place because we're at the National Corvette Museum Spring Bash. Unfortunately, with COVID, there's not as many here, but there are some really unique cars, really unique color schemes, and I just want to show them to you. Let's go. So we're very fortunate that we have all 8 generations car, but I gotta start with the C1 inside the museum here. And I wanted to start with this one because this is actually a very unique car and it has a really awesome history. You're just gonna have to come to the museum to see all the history of this car, but this is not a car that you kind of see completely until you walk over here. Yes, this is a 1953 C1 Corvette cutaway car. So you can see everything about this car, that what the engine was, everything about this. White exterior, red interior, and all of the 1953 Corvettes came this way. And this is actually chassis number 3. So it's really interesting to see that, one, they had a spare tire back in 1953, something we don't have today. The fuel tank pretty much still in the exact same location throughout the entire generation of the Corvette. These awesome white wall Firestone tires. You can kind of see what the internals of the door look like, right? So just really one piece of wire, and look how skinny this frame is, man. I'll tell you what, you get hit sidewall on this, not probably a good idea, and which would be like why we have such great safety features on today's technology stuff. And then another interesting fact is you can see that the engine on this car is blue. This is actually called a blue flame engine. It's an inline 6-cylinder engine. So yes, Corvettes at one time did come in inline 6s and not V8. That engine has got 150 horsepower. It gets about 14 miles per gallon. And believe it or not, this thing runs and drives. We can literally be out running and driving this thing right now. The C1 Corvette was in production from 1953 to 1962. In 1963, they came up with this bad boy right here. The second generation of Corvette was built all the way till 1967, but the 63 split window Corvette is probably the most prized possession out of all Corvettes ever made. This 63 is got a Daytona blue paint job on it, and since it's cloudy out here today, we're never going to be able to see it, but there is a lot of metal flakes. So hopefully one day I can see this car again on a sunny day and we'll get to a look at it. It's based out of California, and this car actually at one time was owned by someone trying to get into the Olympics, and he pulled his boat everywhere. But this car is absolutely amazing. And I told you earlier that this was probably the most prized possession Corvette on the market. This will be $1 million car right now. They tell me that the vehicle has been appraised for about $170,000. It's not for sale for $170,000, but this car rivals supercar costs right now. I don't want to leave that car behind me. That thing is absolutely sweet. But the C3 was the next generation, and that was built from 1968 to 1982. So that leads us to this absolutely beautiful 1978 Stingray with an L82 motor in it. And this car right here, you can see the color scheme. This is a 25th anniversary color scheme, which is a limited edition car. And this is probably one of my favorite looking Corvettes. Not something that I'd ever want to own and drive on a long trip because it just beats the heck out of you. But this is by far, I think, what at the time was the coolest looking one. I thought the big fat tires on these cars just, really make this look like a sports car. The flared out wheel flares in the front and the back. Obviously going to the Indianapolis 500 is a big thing. I don't remember Hot Wheels version back then, but they got a little Hot Wheels emblem on there as well. And you can see the antennas for the radio and whatnot as well. Manual transmission in this car, gray interior, so 4-speed manual transmission. And if you look in there really, really close, yep, that's an 8-track. And I don't know where the owner is, but I'm just gonna open up this car and look at it. Just kidding, he just showed up. At least I hope he's the owner. He just showed up and opened the car for me. Yes, the Village people, yes, we got an 8-track in here. Absolutely love the interior of this car. So the owner's gonna pop the hood, and these are actually glass up here. You can see kind of through them up there. But the one thing that I mentioned at the beginning of this clip is this is an L82 engine, and only 220 of these cars were made. So back in 1978, there was 220 Corvette dealers. So GM made sure that every single Corvette dealer got one of these cars. And I'm telling you, I was saying it off camera. Maybe I said it on camera, I don't even remember, but this is probably my favorite car out of everything, including the C8. And I want to make sure I clarify, when I say numbers, people always have to say something. L82 4-speed, there was only 220 of them made. And that leads us into the C4. 1984 to 1996, these cars were built. I was born in 1977, and that's kind of like, you know, I'm an 80s kid, right? So that's when I kind of started getting into Corvettes. Never thought that I would own one, less two that I have now, but that leads us to this sweet 1990 Indianapolis 500 edition car. Now, I'm born in Northwest Ohio, lived in Northeast Indiana my entire life until I moved down to Louisville in 2008. So the Indianapolis 500 has always been, you know, like our biggest event, right? So in Louisville, we have the Kentucky Derby, but in Indiana, we have the Indy 500. So that leads us to this one right here that is a convertible, which is kind of like the second convertible on the video, but got a nice luggage rack. I absolutely love the yellow. They kind of had similar wheels from the last generation car. I'm about to get run over by a C7. And you know, we saw these coming as a kid. You just saw the pop-up headlights at nighttime. Just seeing it just like this was absolutely amazing. And the owner's not around this car, but when you get into the car, the technology that this car had was absolutely awesome. It's gonna be tough to see all of those digital displays up there that you got and all that stuff, but absolutely awesome. And let's take a look at this C5, 1997 to 2004, and this 2000 right here is one of my favorite years because there was a couple things happening in the early 2000s, but also it was the end of an era on something with the C5. I think the C5 is really what really made like, hey, this is a grandpa's car, stuff like that, because this is this era that people really started going to car shows heavily and doing things that you see on this car quite a bit. And that would be mirrored finishes. They did different types of hood underlayments, but this guy has definitely customized this car very, very heavily. Awesome LS1 engine, you can't beat that. You can see it's painted everything silver underneath. It's got mirrored chrome under everything, on top of the alternator, underneath the radiator, on the caps right there. It's got a little bit of carbon fiber here, painted mirror caps, and nice little Hurst shifter and there with a different steering wheel and whatnot. So awesome stuff here. And then we come back here and it's got a really unique thing. And that's kind of, is that a sub? Is that a speaker? What is that right there? I don't know, but that's definitely custom. And then he's got the build sheet and the original window sticker, which this car stickered for $43,000. A couple other things I see on this car is we got some, looks like powder coated gray wheels. We got a carbon fiber spoiler back here. And the big thing on the C5 people did was put different type of like bezels around the lights. And they always made these really big areas covered up right here with the license plate. And yeah, it looks like he's got a Billy Boat exhaust system on here, so that's completely custom as well. A couple other things that I saw in this car is he's got this custom splitter up here that's carbon fiber. And I mentioned that exhaust back there, and I forgot to look down here, but yeah, we got some different headers down there, so I would love to see how this thing sounds, but we're not gonna be able to do that today. But yeah, definitely custom all the way to the carbon fiber wrap up here, all the way to the Corvette over the windshield. So I mentioned earlier in this segment that this car triggered a lot of people. So in 1999, there was no such thing as a Z06. We had a fixed roof coupe for 1999 and 2000, and that was a segue in putting more horsepower to get the Z06 version because they couldn't use the traditional target top back here because the car flexed too much. Also, the biggest trigger on this version happened when they announced the C6. The C6 was the very first version that did not have pop-up headlights, and the Corvette community is great for a couple things, telling you knowledge and telling you what they don't like about cars, and they did not like that we did away with pop-up headlights for the C6. Which leads me into probably one of my favorite cars out there, and that's the C6 Z06. C6 was from 2005 to 2013, and probably the most Corvettes I've sold previous to the C7 and C8, and I was involved the entire generation of this. This is actually a 2008 Z06 with the big block 7.0 liter, Some people see it as 427, which that 427 is not a stock emblem. That 427 came later on in the year in 2013 when they put the 427 engine in the convertible, which is the first time they did convertible because they changed some things to go into the C7, which we're going to talk about here in a second. But yes, this is a Will Cooksey version C6 7.0 big block engine, and just like on the C5, they did a lot of customization on this car. This car has 505 horsepower and two-tone interior. It looks like they got a little bit of a hydrocarbon dip there. Manual transmission. They did not put it in reverse, so it looks like the car is on, but I'm not going to touch it. They're going to be a little upset on that because battery saver is on and all that stuff. But anyways, so chrome wheels, and we'll look back to the back here. Yeah, coming out of Missouri. Yeah, awesome car on the 2008 Z06 Will Cooksey version. The C7 was from 2014 to 2019, and just like all of these vehicles, I've been showing you some really interesting things that I like on it, and this C7 behind me has got something that no C7 in the world has. And before I share with you what this C7 has, you might already see it, I don't know. This is owned by G1 Graphx up in Columbus, Ohio, and they've done some fairly cool things to this one. You know, always a big thing with the caps on the car, but the engine, absolutely amazing that they have this engine cover. It's so nice. I have a Hoyle cold air intake system on here as well. And the graphics, I saw this last night at dinner, and the graphics on this thing are absolutely awesome. 2019 Grand Sport, and basically they just kind of, you know, they're a graphics company, right? So they did some really unique things on the graphics down here and on the inside of the shark fins, if you would call it that. And then moving to the back here, really unique emblems down here. And I thought about doing this on my car, but maybe having one cut out that says Chevy Dude, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, to G1 Graphx right behind me. Yeah, absolutely awesome stuff back here. And let me show you what this is unique on this car that no other car has in the world. And that is this right here. Now, they patented this. This is their own thing of this heat extractor on here, and this is really awesome. So instead of seeing this right here, you see this right here, and he's not gonna pick it up on camera well, but it's got some really good depth, and he's an engineer, so he does this by trade, and it looks awesome on here, what you see just like that. And then when you look at it down here, he did some red on the air intakes down there that looks sweet. And then just looking at the hood, just able to see through there. Look at that, you can see all the way through there just like that, and that is definitely unique on the C7. Details are kind of important when you're doing videos for YouTube, and I'm a moron and did not hit record properly, so that blip of the Rapid Blue C8 that you just saw was the coolest C8 I thought here, outside of my own of course, and it was a really awesome hardtop convertible Rapid Blue C8 with tension blue interior with a really awesome checkered board theme throughout the car. Unfortunately, I just didn't get it. As you can see, there are hundreds of cars here, and I can't do videos on all of them, so I just wanted to show you each generation of these cars that I love. But here is a quick montage of some more sweet cars here at the National Corvette Museum Spring Bash.